What does the law say when a juristic person or a natural person defies, that is, a court order?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. In the context of Namibia, contempt of court refers to the intentional and unlawful disobedience or disregard of a court order or judgment. So this actually undermines the authority and dignity of our court, which the rule of law and the foundational principle of the Namibian constitution actually requires it to be upheld. So further in Namibia, when it comes to contempt of court, a juristic entity like a company or organization can be held in contempt of court for failing to comply with a court order, but the process actually differs from holding an individual in contempt. So contempt, whether by a juristic entity or an individual, is actually taken seriously in Namibia as it undermines the authority of our courts and the rule of law. One important aspect that I actually just want to point out is that one needs to make a distinction between actually two types of contempt, which is civil contempt, which is for failing to comply with a court order for a benefit of another party, and actually criminal contempt for actions in that disrespect court authority. So basically, that's those are the basic principles when it comes to contempt of court, when it comes to both natural and juristic entities in Namibia.
Now, Johannes, are the consequences different from an individual to an institution?
Yes, first of all, I need to state that contempt of court, whether committed by a natural person, be it an organization or company or a juristic entity, can lead to serious consequences. In as much as both some consequences or implications are the same to both juristic entity and individual, some differs. First of all, I want now to lay out those specific consequences that apply to natural persons. So some of the possible implications or consequences of contempt of court that apply to natural persons are that court can actually order imprisonment for contempt either for a fixed period of time or for an indefinite term until that specific individual or natural person complies. Another consequence of potential implication of contempt of court is monetary policy, which can be imposed to individuals, meaning that court can actually impose a fine for a person who is actually found to be in contempt of court. And then asset sequestration as well. In some cases, a court can order the sequestration of an individual asset to ensure compliance with a court order. So, however, there are also some consequences that apply to juristic entities. Fines can apply to juristic entities as well, just as a natural person. Asset sequestration can also apply to juristic entities. And however, there are also some far-reaching consequences of which can come with contempt of court. For example, when it comes to a juristic entity, it can lead to actually loss of reputation. Contemptuous action by companies or organizations can actually damage its reputation and impact its business relation with the general public. In addition to that, I just need to indicate that there are some far-reaching consequences or general implications that apply to both juristic and natural persons or individuals. So, for example, it undermines public trust. So, continuous contempt of court undermines public trust in our legal system and as well as in our administration of justice. It can actually also impact on court authority, and it makes it difficult for our courts to actually enforce their court order or judgment. So, just to sum up on this very specific question is that it should be understood that contempt of court and its consequences depend on the nature of the contempt and the serious matter of the matter as well. And it has far-reaching consequences in that regard.
Lastly, Johannes, what powers do courts have to compel compliance? That is, example, attachment of property, freezing accounts, imprisonment, or individuals or officials?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. See, that question is almost related to the question that I just answered now. However, for example, if you go to our Magistrate Court Act, specifically Section 108, it actually lays down the certain powers which our court have to actually enforce their court order. For example, they can attach specific property of an individual to allow them actually to comply. And they can, for example, issue fines or penalties to a specific entity or organization. So those are some of the powers that our court actually has.